Should I start, Sarah, or should I wait a couple of minutes?
I think you can start.
Okay. Okay, welcome everybody. This is a briefing organized by the Alliance of NGOs on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. My name's Ian Tennant. I'm chair of the Alliance of NGOs, which hopefully most of you are aware is the umbrella body for facilitating and coordinating civil society engagement with the crime and justice related mandates of the UN, primarily through the UNODC, including with our partners at the Civil Society Unit of the UNODC. And today we're also joined by the Secretariat to the governing bodies at the UNODC, which is the part of UNODC which is organizing the next UN Crime Congress, which is what this briefing is about today. I will give some brief opening comments before handing over to the UNODC to take us through their presentations. But I just want to highlight a few points. First, I think the Crime Congress is a very important and relevant moment for civil society to engage and to influence the agenda at the UN on crime and justice issues. They've been going on for a very long time, every 5 years, I believe since 1950, I think the first one. And we're now starting, the international community is now starting the preparatory process for the next Crime Congress, which takes place in April 2026, hosted in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. Many of you will have participated somehow in previous congresses, the last one being in 2021 in Kyoto, but also primarily online, as this one was supposed to happen in 2020, but was postponed and became a largely online event due to the COVID-19 pandemic at the time. So this is important for civil society, I think, because it's quite a unique international meeting with a prominent role for civil society, but also a prominent and kind of well-established practice of NGO, academia, and other civil society participation in this process. And the Congress, while it's not a policy-making body, it does influence policies made at the UN by setting the agenda every 5 years for what the UN should be looking at and addressing on all kinds of crime prevention and criminal justice issues, obviously primarily through the Crime Commission, the CCPCJ, but also throughout other relevant mandates of the UN. And as the space for civil society has become more challenging in recent years, it's all the more important that we make sure that we're coordinated and well informed and able to participate as much as we can and really contribute our perspectives as civil society to this important process. So I'm very happy. I see more than 140 of you have joined online for this meeting, which really just shows how much interest there is from civil society participants to participate in the next Congress. The Secretariat will take you through the process, what's going to happen next, and we will have a chance for discussion of how, in practice, civil society can engage as well. So without further ado, I will give the floor now to Ms. UNODC, Chief of the Secretariat of the governing bodies, who will introduce the Crime Congress, the 15th Crime Congress in the UAE, and the role of civil society. So over to you, Yo.
Yes, good afternoon, Ian, and it's really a pleasure to be here with all of you this afternoon. We are indeed excited to come into a phase where the preparations for the Crime Congress become more, in a way, intense. We still have like a year and a couple of months to go, but the next months will indeed be, I would say, a critical phase also in terms of the substantive outcome that we can expect for the Abu Dhabi event. So what I'm going to do, and then some of the colleagues will step in. I will just kind of give a rough overview. For those who have been participating in the Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, which is not just the preparatory body to the congresses, but also the follow-up. I mean, as Ian was already saying, the Congress itself has not policy-making functions, but it basically brings then the outcome of that major political gathering and an advisory gathering back to the Commission for follow-up action. So the Congress is important because it will really set the stage for what is going to happen in the area of crime prevention and criminal justice for the period 2026 to 2031. Next slide, please. So this presentation, as I was already saying, has, for those that are participating in the sessions of the Commission, you will have seen some of this already before, but just to recap, we had this May in the CCPCJ acting as the PrepCom to the Congress, a modalities resolution that was negotiated, which included, amongst others, the dates and the venue for the Congress, so 25 to 30th of April 2026, with pre-session consultations the day before, and it is decided to happen in Abu Dhabi in the Emirates. Next slide, please. We had actually already in the modalities, next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, so well, we had already in the modalities resolution the year before a decision within the Commission on the overarching theme on the agenda items and the workshop topics that is displayed on the screen here. And it follows the logic that we also saw for the two previous congresses in Kyoto and in Doha, in the sense that you have a broad overarching theme that in a way links the Congress to key topics that are on the agenda of the UN at large, namely protecting people and planet, the digital age, the achievement of the 2030 agenda. So that's basically, if you wish, the umbrella. And then you have 4 pillars, one on prevention, one on criminal justice, one on new and emerging forms of crime, and one on partnerships and assistance, technical assistance. And each of these agenda items is paired with a workshop. The workshop, being much more focused and technical in nature, will happen also in the format of panel discussions, and the recommendations of the workshop will then in a way feed back into the agenda item. So this was already agreed upon by the Commission and then in a way adopted by the GE in the course of 2023. And that, of course, have also helped all of us already to give some further thought on what could basically be on the high on the agenda for 2026. Next slide, please. One of the backbone documents, if not like the core document to advance the preparations, is the so-called discussion guide, which follows the agenda of the Congress, the one you saw on the previous screen, and is going to basically be used during the regional preparatory meetings and then the Congress itself. It has been prepared by UNODC in cooperation with the institutes of the network on the program network of institutes on crime prevention and criminal justice. I mean, I'm sure that most of you are familiar with these academic institutions. There was an advanced version made available in the format of a conference room paper for consideration by the Commission in May. And in the meantime, that paper has basically been finalized. It also now includes information on the developments that happened in the meantime, namely, amongst others, the finalization of the negotiations on the Cybercrime Convention, as well as the Summit of the Future and the documents that were adopted at that occasion. Next slide, please. So here is showing in a nutshell the two tracks during the Congress itself. So you have the formal track with the plenary, first 2 days existing of a high-level segment, to be followed by then the 4 substantive agenda items. And there is a committee in which the 4 workshops are being conducted. And in a way, the way this is scheduled is that you have always the workshop being held before the corresponding agenda item is taken up in plenary. And we will then have Regina providing today some information also on ancillary meetings and exhibitions, which are traditionally also very well welcomed and also kind of used by the NGOs. Next slide, please. The regional preparatory meetings are important because they set the stage for the work that will start within the Commission later in 2025 on the Abu Dhabi Declaration. The resolution which was negotiated in the CCPCJ in May, meanwhile, has passed ECOSOC and also the third committee of the GA, and which is now before the plenary of the General Assembly for adoption this December, provides guidance also by indicating that it should be a structured, short and concise draft declaration, and that it should also contain an overarching political message addressing the main topics to be discussed at the Congress. Next slide, please. What the modalities resolution made very clear is that the declaration, which will be negotiated and finalized before the Congress for adoption at the opening, is only one part of the Congress outcome. The report will also contain the information on the deliberations stemming from the high-level segment, the agenda items, and the recommendations stemming from the workshops. And in a way, the resolution makes it clear that the Commission, at its 35th session in the first week,
I already dismissed it.
In the first week of June, will then devote time to looking at the outcome of the report, not just declaration, but happening during the Congress itself, and will use that in a way as its guidance for the work to be conducted in the 5 following years. Next slide, please. So, I mean, with this, I will now suggest to hand over to Doris. Doris will be acting as the focal point for the first regional preparatory meeting, the one that is basically going to take place in Bangkok in January, and there will be, in addition to Doris, the focal point for the one in the Latin America and Caribbean region is Lucia. Then we have Charlotte, who is the focal point for the one taking place in Europe. Then we have Regina, who is the focal point for the one taking place in Africa, and Dorothy for the one taking place in Western Asia. I think most of them, if not all, are also connected in the meeting today. So, but first handing over to Doris, who is in charge, as I said, as focal point for the first of the regional preparatory meetings. Doris.
Thank you very much, Joe, and hello, everyone. My name is Doris. I work in Joe's team, and I'm just going to say a couple of words about the regional preparatory meetings and also NGO participation in general. So for those of you that was the first Congress, maybe the regional preparatory meetings are kind of traditionally happening 1 year before the Congress, so in 2025 in our case, and they are held in the different regions. So we're going to start off this year with next year with Bangkok, Thailand for the Asia Pacific meeting. Then in February, we're going to San Jose, Costa Rica for the Latin American Caribbean meeting. In March, we will have the meeting in Vienna here at the VIC. This is going to be the Europe meeting. In Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, we're going to have the African meeting in April. And the last meeting will be the Western Asia meeting, where we're still discussing with possible hosts on where this could take place. And this will be in April. And then, of course, we'll have the next session of the CCPCJ. So if we look at how this regional meetings will be structured, so very classical opening of the meeting, we will have a full set of offices for the meeting, as you know, from the CCPCJ as well, followed by the adoption of the agenda and any organization matters. And then we will start with the discussion on the main theme of the Congress. So what will happen is there will be introductory presentation by the Secretariat on this main theme of the Congress. And Joe mentioned before already the discussion guide. So if you have a look at the discussion guide, you will also very nicely see the flow of the discussions to be expected. Under agenda item 5, we will look at the different agenda items and the corresponding workshops. So item 3, workshop 1, item 4, workshop 2, and so on. And again, there will be an initial presentation by the Secretariat to kind of, bring some questions and kind of stimulate a bit the discussion, outlining the main key areas that were also identified in the discussion guide. And then all of this discussion is supposed to basically come to recommendations that are basically being negotiated by the member states that are, or not negotiated, but that will basically we will draw from the discussions under the agenda items, recommendations that will come from the region, and the meeting will close with the adoption of the report. So the recommendations of the Congress, they are really supposed to reflect the deliberations that happened on the overarching theme on the one hand, but also on a specific agenda item. They're supposed to be action oriented and not like we have in some of the resolutions negotiated, but they should really reflect the key messages of the deliberations. Why that is so important? They're really important to make sure that the different regional perspectives are reflected in the recommendation, as all these recommendations together will basically form the basis for the first draft of the Abu Dhabi Declaration that will then be negotiated later in 2025 by the CCPCJ. So the focus will, of course, be the crime prevention, criminal justice challenges in the broader UN context. Also, of course, new and emerging challenges and solutions, and the role of the CCPCJ in the implementation of these of the Abu Dhabi Declaration. Just to say a couple of words in terms of NGO participation for the regional preparatory meetings, it is NGOs with ECOSOC status that can ask for an invitation. When it comes to the NGO participation in the Crime Congress, we basically have two different categories. So the civil society is welcome to participate as observers in the Congress without the right to vote. NGOs in consultative status with ECOSOC, they can basically, if they work in the field of crime prevention, criminal justice, they can request an invitation to participate, and to basically will receive an invitation. We were closely working, and the colleagues from the Civil Society Unit are here, and we will be closely working with the Civil Society Unit on that. For the Crime Congress as such, and this is also different to the CCPCJ, which is the functional commission of the ECOSOC, we also have the category of NGOs not in consultative with status with ECOSOC that can apply through the Civil Society Unit. There are a lot of details specified in ECOSOC Resolution 1996/31 in paragraph 44 that kind of says which of the NGOs would be eligible to apply for that. We have now considered setting a little bit of an earlier deadline, because the process with NGOs not in consultative status with ECOSOC is a little different, because we will collect together with the Civil Society Unit a list of those NGOs that are interested to participate in the Congress, and this will then need to be reviewed by the extended bureau of the CCPCJ, and then once a final decision has been taken by member states, those NGOs that have been approved will basically receive an invitation letter and then can register in Indico. For those of you that don't know Indico, Indico is our registration system, but we will make sure that all the relevant information and guidance is then available on the Crime Congress website, including exact details. Joe?
Yes, thank you very much. Just in short on the regional preparatory meetings, as we said, the NGOs with ECOSOC status can participate in the deliberations part, the part on the last day that deals with recommendations is then in a way when it comes to discussing the recommendations for member states only. Now, one important part of the Congress is also the workshops. And the way they are being structured is that they are happening in two committees, but the work of these committees is basically scheduled consecutively. So they are not in parallel, which has the advantage that there is no need to choose between, in a way, the workshops, but that it is also possible to participate in all of them. Next slide, please. So the institutes are working with the focal points in UNODC to prepare for the panels that will be held during these workshops. They are also already providing further thoughts on ahead of the preparation of the background papers that they will be looking in and working on in the coming months. And then in a way, the workshops are expected to come up with some recommendations, which would again not be non-negotiated, but that which would be then going into the report of the Congress. And one, I will have Lucia providing some further information in a minute on the Generation Justice Initiative. That is a UNODC initiative to make sure that young people have an opportunity to contribute to the Congress throughout the process, whereas in the past there was a youth forum immediately preceding the Congress. This time, in a way, the youth are also involved in the preparations. Next slide, please. Here, that's just in a way some further information on these workshops. The committees will elect their own leadership at the beginning of the Congress, and it will be then the chair elected and the rapporteur that also will lead the preparation of in-session documentation. Next slide, please. Okay, now I will hand over to Regina to provide some information on ancillary meetings and exhibitions. Regina?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. And hello, everybody. I will have the pleasure to, as Joe mentioned earlier, be the focal point for the regional preparatory meeting in Africa, probably be involved in the work of the committees, and I will also have the pleasure to organize the ancillary meetings and exhibitions. And as you can see on the slide on the screen, and before I get to the actual ancillary meetings and exhibitions, we thought that that we would provide the space for the NGOs for the duration of the Congress to organize events. So an additional space that is not replacing any involvement in ancillary meetings or exhibitions, but to provide basically a space where where that we hope would provide an opportunity for all stakeholders to delve deeper into the topics of the Congress and hopefully in innovative formats. You'll be pleased to hear that we visited the conference center in Abu Dhabi, and there is plenty of room, and there's also during the Congress plenty of time. So this should provide, space should not be shrinking, but actually expanding, and that would be both in terms of participation, as you heard from Doris. There's opportunities, plenty of opportunities for participation in the Congress itself, but also literally in terms of space. So what we would hope that could be done is maybe the Alliance could organize that to have a space where throughout the week anything can happen, so free in format and length. What I put on the screen are just examples that came to mind that are not necessarily the standard ancillary meeting type, which is usually also a small panel discussion, but it could be workshops, talks, videos, demonstrations, 15-minute video screening, a half-day training, a TED talk, a fireside chat, group discussion, demonstrations of sorts. So whichever you would find suitable. And it would be for the NGO community to schedule those events and put a program together that we as Secretariat would then include in a Congress program. Formats, and again, this is, the planning is preliminary. The Congress is almost a year and a half away in April 2026. But from where we stand now, the hybrid format should be possible. And as you heard from Ian before, the Kyoto Congress was largely online, and it was due to the pandemic. But the expectation is that this Congress will hopefully be back fully in person. So the focus, hopefully, of what's happening in the meeting rooms would be on the in person. So we would hope to not plan on too many online events, but have something happening for the people who actually joined the Congress there. It's probably English only, and one important thing that I wanted to mention in terms of Congress planning, we will try to go fully paperless. So that means that that's in terms of promotions, for example, of events, we will have plenty of opportunity to put this all on display, to include it in the program. But that's also relevant for the type of publications or something. We will also have a space to put everything on display digitally, but not in paper. So for that, it would be important that hopefully the Alliance could identify a focal point that we could communicate with on this NGO lab space. Next slide, please. So this is the slide on the ancillary meetings and exhibitions. The topics, as always, should be relevant to at least to the main umbrella theme of the Congress: crime prevention, criminal justice, rule of law, protecting people and planet, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and the digital age. And as you can see, this is very broad, and many topics would fit under this broad umbrella. Both ancillary meetings and exhibitions can be organized by NGOs that are in consultative status with ECOSOC. We would need to have one main organizer with a focal point responsible for the event. But again, as I said, there's so much space, there would be no limit on, how many events people could come up with. hopefully. I'm saying this now. Let's see in the end. But there's really we have a lot of time and we have a lot of space for the side events. Yeah, proposals to be submitted online, and we would need some details from you at that stage. The sessions would be for 1 hour throughout the day, and the formats are open, in person, online, and hybrid. Exhibitions are different from the ancillary meetings, obviously, as they're a permanent installation for the full duration of the conference, and they would be in person only. The guidelines and application forms would be published in the second half of 2025. And yeah, both side events and exhibits would be included in the program. There will be screens at the conference center. It's paperless, but nonetheless, there would be plenty of opportunity to promote them. So happy to take any questions on this. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Secretariat. Are the Secretariat team finished? Or
No.
No.
Sorry, Ian, to interrupt you, because we still have one little extra part on changes. Sorry for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
No problem.
Thanks. I will keep it very short. Also, Joe mentioned it before. So we are looking at ways to engage also youth more meaningfully in all our intergovernmental work regarding the CCPCJ. So in May of this year, we launched a new UNODC initiative, which basically aims to engage youth both in the preparations towards the Congress, in being represented at the Congress itself, and then in helping with the follow-up to the Congress Declaration implementation. Maybe next slide already. Please, thank you. So at the center of this initiative is a youth network that spans the 5 world regions. We have 50 youth members that were selected after a call for applications. There's 10 people per region. And we are already have been holding actually for a number of months, quite a few capacity building activities, peer-to-peer learning, and possibly the most important thing that's coming up now is the holding of online regional youth consultations that will happen in each of the regions. And then the youth within the group, but also external youth, are invited to participate in drafting recommendations that then the policymakers will be considering during the regional preparatory meetings, the official meetings of the Congress. So that's, I will keep it short because I know there's probably a lot of interest for questions. So if anybody's interested in knowing more about it, I can always provide more information later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia, and to Joe, Douglas, and Regina, for all the very useful updates. I think we're going to carry on. I can already see some questions building up in the chat, but some of which are being answered live by Sarah, some of which are open, and we will kind of collect the open ones until Mirella and myself and colleagues are finished, and then we will kind of open the floor for questions. So now I'm going to ask Mirella Duma-Frahi, the head of the UNODC Civil Society Unit, to give an overview of what they're planning on organizing for the Congress. So Mirella, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ian, and it's a great pleasure to be with all of you. Hello to everybody, whether it's good morning or good evening for you all. It's great to see a big number. At some point I saw over 160 people online. Okay, we are 188 actually, so it's wonderful to see a lot of interest, and thank you for all the colleagues from the Secretariat who presented us some on the Congress. As you know, the Civil Society Unit, which is the main entry point for civil society within UNODC, is located in a different division. The Secretariat is part of the Division of the Treaty Affair. We are part of the Division of Policy and Public Affairs. It is, and the way we work is really we work with umbrella NGO organization, and this is why when it comes to organizing and coordinating the participation of civil society, whether it's on the Commission of Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, UNTOC, or the UN Crime Congress, which, as you know, happen only every 5 years, so it's quite exceptional. We work with our umbrella organization partner, who is the Alliance of NGO on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. Therefore, I really thank Ian as a chair and all the Secretariat of the Alliance for organizing this meeting, which is very timely, very useful. We also provide help, and Sarah, who is really behind us, is part of the Civil Society Unit that has been making sure that we could hear of all have this very early, everything is relative, but we tried our best to make sure that you are informed and briefed on time. And one of the things we thought would be useful to do to make sure that you participate meaningfully and start participating really already at the preparatory meeting, because I really want to insist that the preparatory meeting are key to provide input from civil society, because it's where there will be reports for each of these preparatory meeting, and this report will feed what will be the declaration, the Congress declaration. Therefore, our work starts already now, and we have with the Alliance put together this global survey that you must have received, all of you, because it was sent out on the 26th of November. It is, I see that Sarah have put it also on the chat, and you can fill it. Of course, we were trying to have, it has different deadline according to which of the regional preparatory meeting you're participating. Therefore, for the one that is taking place in Bangkok already in January, we had set the date of 15th of December as a deadline to make sure we can prepare for it. But our friends from Latin America can still fill it in until the 4th of January. And so far, some 210 stakeholders have responded to the survey. So thank you very much for your input. We'll try to work on them and make sure also on how to prepare the regional preparatory meeting. What we are planning to do is one day before the regional preparatory meeting, at least for the first two, for Bangkok, it will be my colleague Billy who will most likely be with you, and I will try to cover the one in Costa Rica. We will organize a session to look at the income and from the surveys, and have a discussion and try to prepare a kind of cohesive and balanced civil society voice, obviously with the help of the Alliance, hopefully. So again, as Joe mentioned, the participation to the court, especially to this preparatory session, is meant to be only for NGOs with the consultative ECOSOC status. But considering we have a number of umbrella organizations, and especially the Alliance, who also I take the opportunity to congratulate, because you got recently this very important status, is able to host you, and in any case, in general, we would really encourage you to join the Alliance so that we can work all together in a coordinated manner. Therefore, if we succeed to have this preliminary coordination meeting to the preparatory. So 1 day before each of the session, we will have we will ensure to try to have also an online, so that, you know, in case you cannot really participate in person, you can still feed or provide input. Therefore, please fill in this online form that is on the chat and tell us if you are interested and if you can participate. Unfortunately, we do not have funding to support your travel, unless we get an unexpected gift for Christmas, you know. But at that time being, we have to say and be honest, there is no funding support for NGOs, and therefore I hope that you will find the resources to join the preparatory meeting, and of course as well the Congress in 2016. So I think I will stop there, and to have more time also for questions. Thank you, Ian. The floor is back with you.
Thank you very much, Mirella, and always a pleasure to work with you on these conferences. Before going to the audience for Q&A and to go through some of the questions that have been put in the chat, I just wanted to say very briefly from the Alliance perspective what we will be focusing on. And I think, you know, like Mirella has said, a lot of what we will be doing will be focusing on coordination, both in the regional preparatory process, but also in the CCPCJ this year and in the run-up to the Congress, at the Congress itself, making sure that information is shared, people know how they can register, by when, what they have to do, what they need to do if they want to organize a side event, how they might be able to partner with somebody. Like the Civil Society Unit, what we cannot do at the moment is provide funding for travels and so on, unless something changes between now and then. But that's not something that we're in the position to do. But also another very important aspect of what we will be doing is to coordinate the substantive input to the Congress itself. So through, for example, what we did at the last Congress and what we would plan to do at this Congress is to coordinate an overarching civil society statement. And that's one of the reasons why we started this process, to have a survey for what civil society is seeing as important for the Congress to consider. And we will see how discussions develop at the regional preparatory meetings, including the coordination meeting that is being organized in partnership with the Civil Society Unit, how this could be coordinated through the regional meetings. In addition, if there is, and I guess we will come to these discussions later, if there is limited space for civil society to speak in the plenary meetings, then the Alliance would have a role in terms of disseminating that information and making regionally kind of representative and diverse selections of speakers to speak on different agenda items from different NGOs. We're very excited to hear about this NGO lab space that will be provided, and of course the Alliance, if our resources allow and we can coordinate ourselves, will obviously be very happy to help to coordinate this space. So we're very much looking forward to that. There was one other aspect that I wanted to touch on, which I was going to ask my colleague Jay Albanese if he is on the yes, I can see him there, if he wanted to comment on academic inputs and something the Alliance has been discussing. I don't know, Jay, if you
Sure.
Yes, Jay. All
right. Thank you very much, Ian, and I appreciate the presentation from UNODC today. It's terrific. Yes, one aspect of civil society we wanted to work to make sure was invited in a systematic way to the Crime Congress are, of course, these professional and academic associations from around the world. We've identified 50, 60 or so of them around the world. They exist on every continent. And these are people who work full-time on research and evaluation projects that might be directly relevant to the work of the Congress. So we clearly would like to include them as part of our civil society effort. But I also wanted to make it clear, and we've been working with this with the presidents of a few of these societies to organize it, but we don't want to broadcast anything yet until we have the details down. For example, and some of it is a matter of logistics in terms of, well, what are the total number of ancillary meetings possible to arrange during the Congress, for example, time, space, technology, if some of them are hybrid. And I'm very pleased to see Regina had opened up, a large range of potential formats. That would be something important to circulate widely to civil society. And of course, going paperless will be a challenge because, as you know, there's a long history at these meetings of circulating, paper-based reports. So we'd have to give thought to making the a digital alternative, effective. But I believe there is a lot of interest around the world, probably more than ever, in issues of crime and justice, broadly speaking. Many of them relate directly to the proposed agenda of the Congress. And as part of the larger civil society effort that Ian outlined, we want to make sure that we invite as many people who are in fact producing, research and evaluation work around the world, get the opportunity to participate. But in any case, thank you all for the work so far. It's looking very promising. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. I think probably what you can tell from all the presentations so far is that there's a lot of potential and a lot of kind of early stage plans, but a lot of those plans will become to look more concrete and real in the coming months. If I can ask one question to Joe and team before we get into the questions in the box, that would be just kind of in terms of very immediate future. Do you have a list of the deadlines for when NGOs with consultative status can register for the regional meetings? Because I'm not quite clear on this point at the moment. Maybe somebody from the Secretariat.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I will on the deadlines, let Doris respond because she, as I said, the focal point for the first one, and she touched already upon it partially in her thing. I just wanted to, in a way, add some points, immediate points on what was said by others. I mean, first of all, I mean, if we look at the meeting in Asia Pacific, contrary to what was in a way the case in the past, it's no longer possible due to the very high financial constraints that the UN has to have an unlimited space in the ESCAP headquarters. My understanding is that there will be, in a way, the space that CMS has been able to secure and has to pay for. It's only for the event itself. And it's basically only a plenary meeting and maybe one smaller meeting. So if the plan is to hold, in a way, I don't know, I heard references to having a civil society gathering the day before, then I think it's going to be very important to look at a possible venue for this that might maybe not be the ESCAP center, because as I said, we just also do not have, from a CMS perspective, the same opportunities anymore as there were in the past. With the financial constraints, basically money is being charged to conference services for the use of the building in Bangkok. So it might be easier with the one in Latin America and the Caribbean, because there it's not happening at one of the regional hubs of the UN. So, but also here, I think it's important really that this is really well planned ahead of the meeting, because, you know, unfortunately, the UN is going through unprecedented financial difficulties, and that has really a bearing on the way some of those things can happen. I mean, also in that context, while we have done our very best to try to get web TV for the regional preparatory meetings, it will not be possible due to financial constraints. Now, one other point is, I understand that what Mr. Albanese was saying, the tradition was to have huge shipments with a lot of hard copies. But as we have like the protection of the people and the planet as one of the key elements of this time's Crime Congress, I don't think that we can really also be seen as having participants bringing a lot of papers there. So I would very, very much plea to try to make sure that information can be shared in a digital format. So with this, I will hand over to Doris, but I thought it was important to give some immediate feedback to some of the points that had been raised. Doris?
Thank you. I'm just going to make reference to the Asia Pacific meeting for now in terms of registration deadline, what Ian mentioned. So we have, and I put in the link, I put in the chat the date for the meetings again, and I understand Sarah will send them out, and we'll also provide you with the link to the region preparatory meetings where you have each meeting where you can go to the documents, and on each page there will be a registration link directly for Indico. There's always also an information note for participants where you can get all the relevant information. The registration for Asia Pacific started on 16 December. Yes, we hope to go as far as 17 January to basically, you know, kind of have the registration done to make sure that we can actually approve everyone in the system. And I just got a reminder to also say to everyone that really, if you're looking at the Indico registration, it's in terms of process, it's really important that you upload a letter from the head of your organization designating you to come to this meeting together with your registration. But this is approximately the deadlines for the registration that you can count on for the different meetings. But if you're interested in a specific meeting, I would also recommend that you go and you look at the information note for participants, and there also the link, direct link to the Indico registration system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's understood. And so, yeah, there's no panic on the deadline is my takeaway from that. But people need to make sure they do it. Make sure they fill in the instructions, the forms properly. With that, I will go into the questions that are open. Those of you who can see in the question and answer box, there are questions that are open and questions that have been answered. So I'll go to the open questions. And the first one from Angelica Hoffman. I think this is a very interesting question for the Secretariat on the visas for NGOs, something obviously you have less control over, but if you can comment on this, that would be very helpful.
Well, Ian, on the first question, I can say that we had the first planning mission in September. We have explained also the expectations from the UN side when it comes towards the host on this. Those issues are also clearly covered in the host country agreement. So I think from our perspective, everything that can be done is basically being done. And we will keep on making that point.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, we understand that for some people it will be easier than others. The other thing to say is that the Alliance is not able to sponsor visas or anything like that, but we can definitely point you in the direction of the most relevant information in partnership with the UNODC. Okay, the next question is financial assistance or scholarship available? I think we've kind of answered this already. I mean, from the Alliance and Civil Society Units, there aren't any programs at the moment, but I don't know if Joe wants to comment on this one, or...
No, unfortunately, there is nothing that I can say. I mean, this is, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean it won't be, but from different sources, there may be opportunities coming up, and if they are open and can be published, the Alliance will be sure to advertise those opportunities, of course. Next question for individual experts,
Yeah.
Joe?
Yes, here the same process will be followed like in the past. I mean, Doris has been looking also and putting information together on the participation of different stakeholders. I don't know, Doris, if you want to say something on this. Yeah.
Sure, happy to do so. So the process for the individual experts, this is a bit different than the NGOs. It's actually the only meeting where we have this group, the individual experts. So what we will have is individual experts can express interest to participate in a Congress, and they would need to send us basically like an application together with a CV to prove that they're actively working in the, you know, researching, working, being a student in that field of crime prevention and criminal justice. We have a look at the criteria, and then we basically, if we approve this, then they will receive an invitation to participate as individual experts in the Congress. And in terms of status, they would have also like an observer status like NGOs. Thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting point how individual experts are integrated in this, and yeah, we hope to see this practice continue. Next question from Alice Pasqualato. Did I understand correctly that NGOs cannot take part in the recommendations for the Crime Congress session of the regional practice?
So the way this works, that this is a formal intergovernmental meeting. So, and it follows in a way the same principle as what you have during sessions of the commission being the preparatory body of the Congress. So while of course all participants have an opportunity to participate in the deliberations and can be as observers in the attending the meeting in its entirety, when it comes to really making comments on the recommendations on the last day, that's actually something for member states only. So all the observers can be there, but basically the formulation of recommendations is in line with past practice, something that is for the member states. I hope that clarifies.
Yes,
it's a bit like you would say the work of the committee of the whole, for those that know how the commission works.
Yeah, so we can observe, but we can't make statements, basically.
Yes, during the last day. But of course, the deliberations are the path towards the formulation of recommendations. So it is, of course, important to make good points during the interventions.
Yeah, okay. That's understood. Thank you. Next question. Can participants from one region participate in another regional meeting? I guess it would depend how relevant it is to you. I mean, as I understand it, there's no restriction on NGOs with ECOSOC status registering for whichever regional meeting they want to. But I guess they should have something useful or interesting to say about that region, and that they should be working there in order to participate usefully. Yeah.
I think you make the point, Ian. Also to explain how that works for member states, the members of the regional preparatory meeting, that's limited to those that have membership in the respective regional commission. So there are some countries that have full-fledged membership in more than one regional commission, so they can participate in those two as full-fledged members. The other member states can participate, but only as observers, meaning they can make their interventions during the deliberations, but they would not basically be engaged in the formulation of recommendations. And actually the same applies also to the other observers. So, you know, I mean, in principle, it doesn't say that you have to be based in a certain region to participate. But as you were saying, it might be in a way be wise to choose among those regional groups where there is like a direct contribution to be made.
Thank you. And just going to the next question, I think at some point the names of the regional focal points were mentioned.
Yes.
I don't know if we can share the contact details here or whether we prefer, I mean, we can
Sure,
also,
sure.
yeah.
You know, we can follow up after the meeting with this.
Okay.
Sure.
And the language is the 6 UN languages for each meeting, for each regional
No,
meeting?
the languages, well, first of all, there is here again a caveat. So, I mean, due to the in a way, very serious financial situation, we even now don't even know how much money there will be, or if there will be money at all available for even the first regional preparatory meeting. So, of course, there is in the budget provision for the languages that are the official languages of the regional commission. So not all 6, but those that are really the official languages of the respective regional commission. So the languages that are used in the region. But here again, on everything, we need to put like a caveat, because we literally don't know how the financial situation of the UN will look like on the 1st of January 2025.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I think I know the answer to the next question is, you know, it's the organizing committee is run by the host country and UNODC. It's not something that can be applied for or by others. So this is not something we can we can do, I think. The next question: will the program and run of schedule for regional meetings? I think there's a website for each regional meeting,
Yes.
which has been shared.
And there are already the annotated agendas there for the those that are coming up in the coming 2 months, and that also contains a proposed program of work, so that it is explained what exactly will be done when in that last page of the annotated agenda.
Thank you. The next question from Monica Usai from Libera, who are going through the painful process, I have to say, having done it myself as well, of attaining ECOSOC status. Yeah, I think this is a good question, actually. So if you do not have ECOSOC status, you can apply to be an observer. This is clear, but you cannot organize an ancillary event. Is this the case?
Are we talking now about the Congress itself, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. I mean, I will let Regina, in a way, deal with that in more details. So, you know, I mean, the details will be provided later on, but actually you can apply then to be, in a way, allowed to participate in the meeting. And then we have a process where that list needs to basically going through a silence procedure with member states. So there is a list being established with those that really, and then that, so in a way, in the end, if then those that basically go smoothly through the silence procedure, they would basically then also be having the status of participating in the Congress, of attending the Congress as observers. But as I said, the difference is really that process of application and the need to go through sailing through the silence procedure for member states. But maybe Regina can provide some more information on the impact that has for the organization of ancillary meetings. You will recall of what was done for Kyoto, Regina.
Yeah, so to be the main organizer of the side event, you have to have ECOSOC status. by the time that you apply for the event. This is the way the procedure has been set up, and there's also a practical reason for it, because or a practical reason that I can mention. By the time that the list of the non-ECOSOC NGOs would be approved, would be this would be way past the deadline to propose an ancillary meeting. So there's a timing issue also involved. But having said that, I mean, as you can easily imagine, you can definitely team up with an NGO that has ECOSOC status and propose the event. And if there's no limit, by all means, there's plenty of opportunity to organize an ancillary meeting. But the responsibility for the event would have to be taken by somebody who is in consultative status with ECOSOC. In addition, we talk about the NGO lab. There's plenty of space and to organize things in this lab, where the NGO community could freely program as you see fit. So I think there's plenty of opportunity to organize an event, even though you might not be in consultative status, but you couldn't be the responsible entity to propose it.
Yeah. I think indeed that the lab is really offering new opportunities that were not available also at any of the previous congresses. And I think it's going to be important that somebody in a way takes like the lead in kind of dealing with the lab and making sure that that space that will be available throughout the Congress is used in the most meaningful way.
No, thank you. And we're on our part, we're definitely looking forward to that opportunity. So next question, I guess this is about what impact would NGO workshop, I guess, for example, the ancillary events or something in the NGO lab, how is this information fed into the work of the broader Congress, I think is what the question is asking. So I recall, maybe Regina can answer this one, in the ancillary meetings in the previous years, there's been a kind of report that's fed into the Congress that there is a kind of reporting procedure on that. I mean, obviously the NGOs in question can, if you're organizing an event, you can go and tell people what happened and give them the information if you're producing a report or so on. But I don't know if Regina or Joe has a response to this in terms of what the kind of link is between the ancillary events and the broader Congress.
Well, I think that there is the possibility also for then NGOs to make a statement also in the plenary, right? So they can theoretically report back on the outcome of their ancillary meeting, time permitting in the plenary. So there will be some slots on each of the agenda items in the plenary. Those can be used to, in a way, inform back the formal track. But maybe Regina has some additional information.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the question is on the ancillary meetings.
I guess
if there was an NGO workshop, I don't know. But frankly speaking, the ancillary meetings, as the name suggests, are ancillary. So they're in parallel, and there is no foreseen reporting back on individual ancillary meetings necessarily in either the one of the committees or in the plenary, because so I think the ancillary meetings would have to carry it themselves.
Yes, but I do recall there was a kind of website, so you can that you can go on and look at. I think this used to be maintained by Gary Hill, that there was a website where you can go on and look at the recordings and reports of the
that we will not have any recordings as such. We will have to look if we can collect input on an ancillary meeting report in the end, but I have to say that's not yet decided.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you. I think the next question on more about individual experts, I think we've answered that question already. Then Yolanta Redo's question, may the individual experts submit their own research papers? Doris.
Yes.
Can I add on to the question what the process is for NGOs to submit written submissions, both to the regional meetings and the Congress?
For the regional meetings, I don't know if we have any specific rules, but for the Congress itself, there is like also in the rules of procedure of the Congress, the possibility to submit written statements by observers, including NGOs in consultative status, and also the individual experts. There's usually information we publish on the website, but like what is the usually the length of the paper and kind of like the deadlines. We're not there yet. We don't have the exact deadlines now on when the written contributions can or need to be submitted for the Congress. But yes, individual experts can definitely do also written statements for the Congress.
Thank you. Oh, good question from Marianne Gredler. Will NGOs be integrated in the debates or at the end of the day when everybody is leaving the meeting?
Well, I mean, we have, of course, also rules of procedure and a certain way of interacting in intergovernmental meetings. So at least for the plenary, there is a protocol that needs to be followed. I mean, this is not something, maybe the panels will, in the workshops offer some opportunity to have that handled in a more interactive way. But at least for the plenary, this is really a set order of speaking, and I don't think that there is anything that can be done to change that.
Yep. Okay, and obviously we hope that people will still be there when NGOs are speaking, and we count on the Secretariat's support. I know they're always flexible and making space. Visas, I think we've answered this already, but yeah, there will be information on the visa application process on the website at some point. There's not much more we can say about that. Is it possible to participate remotely in the preparatory meetings? I believe not.
Well, this is what we tried, what we had hoped for, but unfortunately, was the first thing also that already in a way had to be basically frozen due to the really terrible financial situation, where I said it's even going very much beyond that, and that we at this moment in time, we don't even know whether there will be interpretation, we don't know. So, I mean, unfortunately, we would have loved to see it differently, but it is really beyond our control.
Yeah, no, we understand. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the questions. And there's still 150 people listening, so that's quite a lot of people, and hopefully this information is sinking in. And on our part as the Alliance, I know we will be doing as much as we can to make sure all the information that we gather that's on the websites and that we're getting from you is available for people to see. And we know that the Secretariat is doing the same, Civil Society Unit is doing the same. Sometimes the information may be duplicated, but I think that's fine as long as we're disseminating the information and coordinating. I don't know, Mirella or Joe, if you want to add anything before we finish.
I will need to leave now because I have to rush to another meeting. But I mean, Regina, Dorothy, Lucia, and Doris, I think they are all still connected. So if there is anything, they might be able to respond to. Unfortunately, I will have to disconnect here. And use this opportunity for everybody to wish a very, very happy end of the year for those celebrating Christmas. Merry Christmas. And I wish you all a happy, healthy, and successful 2025. And we are collectively, the whole group, looking forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, Jo, and thank you to you and the team. I think we're come to the end of the discussion now. I don't know if any of the other panelists want to add anything, any other members of the Secretariat. I don't see anything. So I think now we would convert the last 10 minutes into an Alliance formal informal meeting, sorry. It's the end of the year, so I don't